Good afternoon and welcome to Lunchtime series, proudly powered by leadershipbydesign.co, where we aim to add value to people's lives. You can listen to us every Wednesday and Thursday at lunchtime on ebizradio.com, where we talk everything leadership, coaching, and marketing. And you can listen to the Lunchtime series on all your major podcast channels today. Today's marketing and leadership segment, joining me as per usual, marketing communications expert Craig Page-Lee. How you doing, Craig?
Kevin, yeah, good, thanks. I'm hanging in here, so if I do sound a bit nasally today, please forgive me. Just the weather patterns changing has really affected my sinus, so yeah, it's something that hits me every single time. Apologies.
Not a problem, but thanks for being here. It's always a pleasure when you're on with us. So thank you for making it happen. Um,
Thanks, Kevin. But just on that, can you believe it? We're actually at the end of February 2023 already.
yeah, the other day we just spoke about the news where they were going, oh yeah, can you believe it's 1st of February? Can you believe it's the 1st of February? And yeah, we are. It's like the 28th. It's like
Yeah,
and I have more light on the situation, but essentially.
brilliant.
Craig, what are the key takeaway points for our listeners for last week's discussion on survival tips for small business?
Oh, thanks, Kevin. So the reminder points are from the article titled Eight Small Business Survival Tips for 2021, which was published on gocardless.com. And as we spoke last week, even though this particular article was dated 2021, it has absolute relevance for all businesses in today's day and age as well. So the 8 reminder points are noted as follow. Firstly, review your budget. Creating and sticking to a budget is as important part of business success. Is an important part of business success. And a fresh budget gives you that opportunity to define your roadmap and allows you to follow that through the year. The second takeaway point was stay social. That doesn't mean don't come to the office. It means social media is important to stay connected. Your business strategy must include a social media marketing plan to ensure that you're meeting customers' needs. Point 3 was know your customer. Kevin, your small, successful online businesses know their main customers well, and these are the customers that will be their lifeline during times of economic downturn. So really look to find new ways to generate reorders from the depth of that customer base. Point 4 is about being adaptable. As we know, it's past 2 to 3 years has really taught us all how important adaptability is, which is why this year's successful business ideas revolve around the theme of adaptability. Point 5 is try a subscription model. Customers enjoy receiving goods on a regular basis without having to repeatedly go through the billing process, while businesses benefit from that regular cash flow. Point 6, look for ways to improve. Kevin, these slow times can really be an ideal time to work out exactly how to improve your product or service to stand out from your competitors. Point 7 is protect your assets. An important point here, because small businesses really don't have any assets to spare at the moment. So make sure you're adequately protected. And the last point here was streamline your process. And I know we had a long conversation on this. A final way to ensure your business survival is to streamline or automate processes wherever possible so that you don't get bogged down in the admin and wasting employee time and resources, unnecessary duplication of tasks, etc. And those are the key summary takeaway points from last week, Kevin. All fairly simple steps, but really important to get right to move your business forward.
Absolutely, and practical things you can get involved in straight away.
Yes,
I love that. Yeah. So
yes.
if you want to go and check that out, that conversation, because there was some really wonderful pieces that we were sharing in that conversation. Go check it out on the Lunchtime series. You can check it out on all major podcast channels or YouTube, and it's the 8 small business survival tips for 2022. 2021 at least.
Relative to 22 and 23.
Really, completely. Yeah.
Relevant, I should say, yeah.
Craig, so what do we have in store for today's conversation?
Yeah, Kevin, in a way, today's conversation is a bit of a build on last week in that we're actually going to focus on the topic of rebranding, which is something that businesses could consider or should possibly consider once they've aligned and implemented some of these relevant successful activities and steps that we addressed last week. And I want to start by looking at how rebranding can actually help small business and then address the principles of rebranding in a bit more detail as the conversation evolves today, Kevin.
Well, that's going to be interesting because that's something I've just done this year. So
yes, you're quite right, and I believe you're doing quite well in adapting and applying a whole host of these principles that we talk about on the show. So up to you there.
And that's what's interesting about having this conversation, because part of the previous sessions we've spoken about is really aligning to what your brand stands for, and does it showcase exactly what it is. And I'm not wearing my hat today, but usually I'm wearing a hat, and if you find me in the street, you always see me wearing a hat. But it's in line with having a cap and kind of going, leadership can be cool, and it doesn't mean you have to be wearing a tie, and you don't have to be wearing you don't have to have a title for leadership. Everyone has the capacity and ability to. So just by seeing the logo as a cap, it gives a whole spin on how you design your leadership. So
absolutely, and it really is a key characteristic of your brand. Absolutely can note that. I'm just going to blow my nose. Excuse me.
Tell us more.
So, Kevin, thanks. Let's start by taking a quick look at a few of the statements on the benefits of branding. And according to AmericanExpress.com and their small business resources blog, we note that rebranding is a good way for business to stimulate growth, expand, increase profits, strengthen workforce, and gain a competitive advantage. And it's important to remember that rebranding constitutes an internal change that recreates your business's identity and could happen at any time or multiple times during the business's lifetime. Important point to note that. According to ignitebrands.com, some really good stuff on Ignite Brands, the benefits of rebranding begin with one simple truth. Your brand is your company's most valuable asset. Your brand is how your organization is perceived by your consumers, your employees, and beyond. And shaping those perceptions is really key to influencing behavior, and behavior impacts on your bottom line. And it stands to reason, Kevin, then that rebranding is one of the soundest investments a company can make, especially if your company is in the midst of stagnant growth, waning profit, or even a good old existential crisis, which obviously a lot of companies have come through in the most recent time. And then finally, according to another interesting read on crowdspring.com, rebranding can revive your business, as it may be the key to getting your business back on track. One of the points from this article that really appealed to me, Kevin, is that, to quote, it says, rebranding rarely is a sign of weakness. It's more often a sign of a company in tune with its customers and its markets. And a really wonderful phrase that. A brand is much more than the name and logo of a business. It's the sum total of all the experiences your customer and prospects have with your company. And a good brand communicates what your company does and how it does it, and it establishes, most importantly, trust and credibility with your prospects and your customers. And and those are just a few of the thought starters on the value that rebranding can bring to a small business or an organization, Kevin.
I love the fact that it mentions that it's rarely a sign of weakness, and really tuning into your customers and the market, because essentially that's also where I'm sort of headed. When I do have meetings with CEOs or directors of business, they kind of see that I come with a cap, and they see that I have tattoos, and it's not as formal as it needs to be. But yet the impact and delivery is still there. So I love that everything you're saying is what I'm doing. So I'm on track, Craig.
Absolutely. So to that point, let's get into the topic in more detail, and I want to start this aspect by referencing the article I came across again on Forbes, one of my favorite go-to places. The article is titled 3 Common Questions CEOs Have on Rebranding Answered. It was published on the 17th of February 2023, so it's just over 2 weeks old. The article was written by Jim Heininger. He's a Forbes Council member and founder of Dixon James Communication and Rebranding Experts. And the article opens with a key statement here, Kevin, where it says, rebranding your organization to create a more relevant, forward-facing promise to customers to, take note, outpace your competition is a compelling and exciting strategy. Most organizations don't have leadership that has engineered a rebranding before. So it is their first time through a process which can actually be fraught with missteps and probably quite daunting at the best as well. And then the article goes, it says, we've learned there are 3 categories that most CEOs question that fall under to confirm whether a brand is right for their companies. And those 3 categories are around scope of the initiative, time frame needed, and an investment required versus ROI. And it's just wonderful, the synthesis of those 3 points, and you get to see how true and clear they are as we move forward. So picking up on those 3, starting off with the scope of the project here. Many organizations start the rebranding process without a comprehensive understanding of this complex journey ahead, as rebranding is not simply, as I mentioned earlier, a new logo or a name. It is fundamentally a change for the entire organization and your customers, and therefore requires a much more rigorous project management, change management, training, and communications discipline than generally anticipated. And this is a fact. Having worked in the branding space for decades, I clearly see how businesses in many instances just haven't been prepared or understand the process that is undertaken here. So it requires a dedicated effort to engage, firstly, the leadership team in the formation and ownership of that new brand, your HR team in the formation of a new culture, engaging employees to support the new brand promise to customers, your sales team in delivering on a new customer experience, and finally, the marketing department's efforts to revise a multitude of different assets where your current brand, name, logo, and story needs to be updated. And in the end, it requires more time, energy, and commitments than most anticipate. Companies therefore need to plan accordingly, Kevin, ensuring that they have the internal and external resources necessary to execute a rebranding process within a reasonable time frame. The time frame needed. So the amount of time.
I just want to say, what's really interesting about this is it really does. You have to, especially when you think of the larger brands. I just think of F&B, who's recently changed their logo, and some people went to town on making fun of it, and kind of saying it looks like the little. What do you call that? Those 3 little lines of your internet on your actual screen. I was going,
the hamburger patty, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, it almost kind of does. But so I mean, like there's a lot of weight that it carries, and you really have to be able to substantiate, the why, and considering these factors, because it can go south. Could easily.
Yes, it can, and. F&B is very much a digital-led organization. It's been leading that particular space for many years in the country, and I do like what they've done. In all honesty, I think the movement forward into very digital-oriented, modernist, simplistic approach is so right for the brand. So from my side, big up to them. Just jumping back to point number 2, in respect of the time frame needed, Kevin. The amount of time required for a rebrand is always underestimated, as we've just noted, but organizations want to see their projects generally rolled out within 6 months, but most projects require at least 9 months to a year to see the end of day. The strategic and creative process to assess the current brand and a design and formulate a totally new brand requires at least 3 to 6 months just in that particular phase. Then you have to, look at undertaking the process of adapting all necessary branded assets before actually launching to market. And you can understand why you're going to be reaching, at least 9 months in this particular process. And then, running parallel to that, something vitally important is trademark approval process also takes anywhere between 9 to 12 months or more. And what we've often seen, Kevin, again, coming from the years of experience in this branding world, is that brands often go to market while still waiting for approval from a trademark point of view. Obviously, there's a whole host of pre-application investigations that you can do, from CIPC and company registrations and domain registrations that show you that you're at least going into safe territory, so you can get the wheels of momentum turning at that particular point. But developing and rolling out internal communications, the culture building, the training programs that are all required to onboard employees are all timely exercises required in delivering this new brand experience.
And Craig, I mean, and also working with the right team, right? So very often people pitch for this kind of thing.
Yes.
And, making that decision, I would also anticipate that could also leave you really concerned or really happy at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So like the team who gets involved, if you do outsource this, really needs to have the clout and the background and the story behind it for them to be able to put it together.
Absolutely, Kevin. And, to that point, that's why you do see sort of categorization of branding agencies evolve, where there'll be some agencies who are really best in class around developing a corporate brand, understanding the bigger message to market, the broader reach of audience and the multiple segments below that. And they really know how to create big, impactful stuff. And then there are other folk who are really, really good at finesse design oriented brands that might belong to boutique stores or some mom and pops or something like that. So you do get quite a spread of spectrum of design outputs, and there are agencies that really work well within those segments. And then obviously you get the agency groups that can straddle across all of them. But it is a tiresome process to go through a pitch, try and formulate who's best for your business, then negotiate the right fee and right timeline. And again, it's one of those topics that I've noted that we really should have a discussion on the program one day on getting some of the pitch management consultancies on to give us an insight as to those processes and what are the pitfalls or benefits of a particular approach in that regard.
Yeah.
But finally, one of the most important things here is the actual investment required. Because launching a new brand and taking it to market requires extensive financial commitment, especially when designing to dramatically change your customers' perception of the business. And this is validated through a really interesting set of results from a Hanover research study into executive thoughts on rebranding, which proves that ROI is validated. And the research notes the following two key points, Kevin. Number one is that 81% of executives questioned believe rebranding generates a positive return on the investment. So that's a really good start. 78% note that it actually had a positive impact on their company, like increasing customer satisfaction, optimizing their brand messaging, and improving market share. So definitely worth the consideration. However, balancing that investment versus the ROI does require focus on the three areas of cost, which are noted as updating brand assets, the big bang brand, or post-launch marketing. And these really give you some insights as to the complexities. So the more physical assets that you have, for example, uniforms, signage, office, retail facilities, branded sponsorships, etc., all at cost to redesign and reproduce. How big a bang? Well, many businesses believe that their investment in launching the brand among employees and customers needs to be minimal. That, however, is often not the case, and key is to determine upfront what you're willing to spend on launch activities and not, overshoot the lights and waste money. And then lastly, the post-launch marketing, probably the most important, is it's important to map out your post-launch marketing plan and allocate the necessary budgets to those line items. Refocus your planned marketing expenditure towards delivering the new brand story. Take note, story, as there's nothing more disappointing than packaging up a brand new brand and you actually haven't budgeted sufficiently to go and exploit and tell the story to the marketplace. What isn't a hard cost, but importantly requires time and effort, is the input of leadership team, marketing team, HR team, operations, finance, and believe it or not, the sales team. This being during and post the rebranding exercise. And the key point here is that a rebranding project is a strategic initiative that most employees actually have to conduct on top of their day job. So it's really getting the balance right and ensuring that the route to market and deliverables are clearly defined right up front.
So, I mean, Craig, these are three easy to, or these three are very easy to understand points impacting rebranding. But that said, what other important considerations are there required when rolling out a rebranding project?
Yeah, Kevin, you're right. Investment is easy. The time frame is easy. The scope of the project is easy. But there are a multitude of other layers that are required in rebranding. And there are a host of articles that I came across, but I tried to narrow it down. And one that really stood out to me, at least for me, Kevin, was the article titled Considering a Rebrand, 9 Important Questions to Consider. This article was written by Carolyn Crafts on October the 27th, 22. So again, very, very current. And it was published to fullsurge.com, which is a brand growth strategy business, which very cleverly positions themselves as the indispensable consultancies, a really good depth of strategic services that they offer in the business. And this particular article opens with the following question, Kevin. Are you rethinking about rebranding your business? It's a big decision and one that shouldn't be made lightly. There are many factors to consider before taking the plunge. Here are 9 important questions to ask yourself before embarking on a rebrand. So let's take a quick look at each of these 9 points, Kevin. So starting with question 1, what are your goals? Before you rebrand your business, it's essential to assess your goals. For instance, are you looking to attract new customers, or are you looking to expand into new markets? Or do you need to update your image to reflect a change in your product and service offering? And in many instances, this is particularly where the focus of rebranders is structured. Once you've identified your goals, you need to consider the best way to achieve them through rebranding, such as making changes to your logo, your website, and your marketing materials. A key point to consider, however, is how your current customers will react to the change. Will they be confused or upset by the new branding? And it's about managing their expectations accordingly. Point 2, who is your target audience? So as with really getting to understand what your goals are, it's equally important to understand who your target audience is. So who you're trying to reach with your rebranding, as knowing your target audience is essential to ensuring your new brand speaks to them. Once you've understood who you're targeting and what your target audience wants or needs from a business like yours, you can actually start to tailor your branding accordingly. Know who you're targeting will help you decide everything from your logo through to your marketing strategy, Kevin. Question 3 is, what are your competitors doing? It's essential to conduct a comprehensive competitor review so that you clearly understand what you like about what your competitors are doing, or can it bring some clarity as to what you would do differently in their business, and you can leverage off that. So for instance, you may want to stand out from the crowd or fit in with the existing visual landscape. Either way, it's essential to know what you're up against before making any decisions. Point 4, what makes you unique? When thinking about rebranding, it's important to keep your unique selling points in mind. For instance, what makes your business special? What do you offer that nobody else does? It's something you and I have spoken about, quite often here. Your brand should reflect what makes you different and better than the competition. But figuring out what sets you apart from your competitors will help you focus your branding efforts and ensure that your new identity is truly unique, Kevin.
Craig, I just want to add to that point there. We've been hearing about your USP for the last 50 years, right? But at the end of the day, what makes a brand exceptionally unique really offers a large amount of credibility to why someone will work with you. And that's just from a personal coaching perspective and working with executives. And because I'm kind of listening to this and kind of going, as a person, can I apply these questions to myself as a personal brand, as as a director, as a CEO, as a whoever, can I use it in that context? And it still applies, right? Because what really makes you stand out? Like what? So everyone has a unique selling point. Yeah, you're supposed to be unique. Like, I've got 2 colored eyes or whatever. But it's really more than that. You really got to get to it, and be exceptional.
And Kevin, yeah, you used the word why, and I think it's really interesting that you started with that. So if you think back to Simon Sinek's Golden Circle, the why do you exist? Why are you in business? Why do you have that brand? Why do you do what you do? And when you can answer that in respect of people, place, and planet, and really justify why you're doing what you do to make a difference in the way you do, that is going to be the center points to building out your uniqueness. The how and all the rest is its operations and functional attributes to get you there. But when you understand the why, you can start defining what your uniqueness is around your particular brand.
Absolutely.
Question 5, what trends are happening in your industry? And this is an important point, which many people actually look past. So, firstly, are there any trends happening in the industry that you need to be aware of? As keeping up with trends is definitely vital for any business, especially when considering rebranding. Try to incorporate some of the latest trends in your rebrand so that you don't look dated before you've even relaunched, and ensure that your brand is fresh and constantly feeling relevant. Question 6 is, what is your budget? A point we touched on a short while ago. As we know, rebranding can be a significant investment. Consider your budget before getting started. Know how much you can afford to spend on new visuals, marketing materials, and advertising. And once you've got a better idea of the costs involved, you can start to make some key decisions about where to allocate your resources. Question 7, what does your current brand say about you? Your brand is a reflection of your current company's values and what you stand for. It's more than just a logo or a color scheme. So know what your brand says about you and about the business. Revisit what your company's core values are, and remember to be clear on how you want to be perceived by your customers. Then make decisions about how you want to achieve that. And that goes back to why you're in business, why do you do what you do, and then how you're going to achieve that. Question 8 is, what is your current brand doing right? Because remember, it's not about throwing the baby with the bathwater. Even if you're not happy with your current brand, there are probably some things that you're really doing right. Maybe you have a great tagline, maybe you've got a strong visual identity. Don't get rid of those. Whatever the case, it's essential to take stock of the good before making any changes. This will help you avoid accidentally getting rid of something that's really working well, and that may well actually be quite a distinct attribute or asset in your brand repertoire. And finally, question 9, what emotions do you want your new brand to evoke? Think about the emotions you want your brand to evoke. Like, do you want your customers to feel excited, nostalgic, trust, or safety? And each of those have a very different positioning and set of characteristics and therefore visual style behind it. Once you've identified the emotions you want to target, consider how to achieve that through your branding. For instance, if you want to evoke feelings of trust, you may want to use a more traditional logo and color scheme. If you're trying for excitement, you may want to use brighter colors and a lot more modern visuals, Kevin. Simple differentiation, but really applicable and valid. And finally, you also want your brand to be associated with certain things. For example, if you're a luxury brand, you really want customers to think of your product as being high in quality and exclusive. If you're a more affordable brand, you want your customers to think of your products as being good value for the price. So understanding high quality and exclusivity to good value for price. And then consider what associations you want your customers to make with your brand, and then start making decisions about your brand to meet those decisions and expectations, Kevin.
Craig, and it's like that beautiful old saying. It's not what you do. It's not what you said, but it's how you made them feel, right? Because it evokes an emotion.
Correct. Yes. Yes.
So as we close the show today, what are the key takeaway points for all the listeners? Because I love this. I love that. Like going through the 9 points, it really makes you think, and it's applicable to self, and you can really tap into that. So, but what are the key takeaways from today's conversation?
So, Kevin, the key summary points are from an article I came across on the AmericanExpress.com's small business resources blog site, and it was quite a fascinating find coming across some of these really great business ready preparation style articles. So, good to go and check that out for other tips that our listeners may want. And the blog post is titled 5 Rebranding Strategies that you can use today. And these strategies are noted as follows. Firstly, determine your current identity and decide what your new identity will be. And this is where you have to ask yourself those hard questions about your business. What is running smoothly and what is not? And then you must also take your company culture into consideration by asking how your current brand could fit you better as a business. And I really like that point. And then lay out your goals and repurpose and remind yourself of your business's mission statement before you decide what outcomes you wanted to achieve from rebranding. And if you think of the conversation 2 weeks ago when we spoke about everything coming from the mission of the business. Point 2 here is audit changes to be made. Once your plan has been made to change a certain aspect of your business, you really need to document and communicate the changes. And this will make it easier for all employees to understand the changes, what their role is in the change process, and what they're actually supposed to do to bring it about, because it could fail internally. Point 3 is research your customers, an ideal time to review your customer base and decide if part of your overhauling your business is targeting a new market, or, as I mentioned earlier, looking at new geographies or segments. Appealing to a new demographic could bring a whole new energy to your brand and lead you to a whole new segment of potential loyal and economically viable customers. Reach out to a larger consumer base can also help your bottom line. Point 5, turn your employees into brand ambassadors, one of the most important points. Get your employees excited about the change by including them. They're a huge part of your company culture and therefore your brand identity. Take this chance to get your employees and clients to promote your brand, and with the right approach, you can go viral. And the last point here is initiate changes and communicate your new identity. Make sure your employees and managers are comfortable and up to speed on the changes that are going to be made, and ensure that your team lives up to your new brand identity. Set an official launch date to convey your new identity to the marketplace, and announce these changes the likes of your website, your social media channels, email, and then obviously also through the likes of press releases. And the last point, Kevin, here is that this is the perfect opportunity for you to tell the story of why you wanted to change your brand and what you hope to achieve with these changes. And that's all for today, Kevin.
Fantastic. Guys, if you want to catch the Lunchtime series, happens every Thursday at 12 on eBiz Radio. Craig, I'm going to leave us with a quote, and I think I'm going to leave us with a quote every time we on the show, because I came across an amazing quote of the day from Winston Churchill, and it says, never give in, never give in, never give in, never, 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 never give in to nothing. Great or small, large or petty, never give in except to convictions of honor and good sense. Never yield to force, never yield to apparently overwhelming might of the enemy. Never give in. And I thought it was like a fantastic quote to share today. Guys, and also there's going to be a value add. Every week we're going to be on the show. I'm going to leave you guys with a value add that you can actually download. So the one that I have for you this week is 30 questions to evaluate yourself as a leader. Go and check it out. You can click on the link. It's in the description box below. And you can also, if you can't find it, you can join me on TikTok at Kevin Britz _LBD for Leadership by Design. So Kevin Britz _LBD. Craig, thank you so much. Thank you for today's show, and thank you for making us a little bit more wise about rebranding.
Thanks, Kevin. I just want to pick up on your quote. It's I didn't expect that, and I really do appreciate it. And I think it's just a perfect segue, because you and I haven't given up.
We haven't.
The point that this is our 99th show, and next week is our 100th show. And that's a perfect way of demonstrating never give up.
Yeah, and at 100th show, you kind of go, it can only get better from here. So, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because unbeknownst to everyone, we have some plans.
Jolly good. Have a good rest of the week, Kevin. Thank you.
Chat soon, Craig. Just for now.
Ciao,
bye.
ciao. Bye.